Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Realty Rundown with the Nic Wyse team. I am your host, Nic Wyse, and as you can see, I'm flying solo today. Nathan has the morning off, so he is out today, but don't worry, we've still got a great episode we're going to deliver to you. It's going to be a nice short one since it's just me and I don't have Nate there to fill in all that extra banter. We're just going to give you a nice short episode. Hopefully, I don't talk to myself too much. So, guys, today we're going to talk about two big trends that are kind of helping reshape the real estate market. That would be that baby boomers are once again the largest share of home buyers, and that multi-generational homes, 3, even 4 generations under one roof, are on the rise. So we're going to break this down for you. Here in this first segment, I wanted to talk to you about the baby boomers, or as we're going to call them, boomers, regaining the top spot as far as home buyers go. So who are the boomers? And just real quick pause. I don't like the negative connotations around boomer, where you had that for a while there. It was like, okay, boomer. I hate that. So when I say boomer, I'm not doing that. I'm just simply calling that generation boomers because it's easier than saying baby boomers every time. So the boomers are those folks that were born in between roughly 1946 and 1964. They're a huge generation, as you know, if you follow any kind of generational information. But they have regained their top spot as the largest share of home buyers, overtaking millennials. So I think, we've talked about that a little on other episodes, but yeah, the millennials actually had really started to enter the market in mass. And not that they're exactly leaving right now, but the boomers are taking back over the top spot. They are the number one home buyer right now with a share of about 39% of all home purchases. That's up huge. That's actually 11% higher than the millennials who come in at 28%. So why is that? We're going to try and explore that. I've got a graphic I want to throw up here on the screen. Hopefully that's readable enough that will make it. There we go. So basically what we've got with the boomer generation right now is we're seeing a lot of downsizing or relocating in retirement. If you pay attention to those dates that were just thrown up there, that boomer generation is certainly, even the younger ones are now, 60 plus, and certainly approaching that retirement age. From what I understand, we're seeing people retire a little bit earlier than maybe they had. I think that's a trend that started with COVID and has continued. We're seeing more part-time retirement or partial retirement where people are agreeing to stay on maybe at the firm or the business or the company that they were with, but they want to stay on in a limited capacity, more work from home. So that's changing how the boomers approach things. So many are buying secondary homes. They're moving closer to family, whether that be the kids left and want to LA and now they want to be a little closer, so they're moving to a suburb of LA, or the kids are down south, or they just are time to go down to Sarasota like so many of us do in Elkhart County, and just buy that second home and spend more time down there. So they've got the other nice thing they've got, obviously the advantage that boomers have is the decades of equity that they've got in their homes. This is almost never the first home for a boomer. This is the second, third, fourth, sometimes fifth home. And all along that way, they've been able to build up homes, especially if they've stayed in these last homes for a substantial period of time. Obviously, the last 10 years of real estate have been tremendous as far as an investment tool. So they're often cash buyers. Just late last night, received an offer from a new listing that we've got over in Goshen. Beautiful property, 830 Walden Lane. We'll see if it does sell here in short order because like I said, we've got a great cash offer that came in. It's probably going to be gone, so I won't talk too much about it, but it's a really neat property, 3 acres actually in Goshen, in city limits. So really, really unique. But again, cash offer, came on the market over the weekend, and here we go on Monday morning. They've already got a cash offer on it. So, for the boomers, that gives them a huge advantage. Cash is still king. It's not the end all be all. And I think as a cash buyer, if that's your situation, please know that, you're not going to be able to come in and bully a seller and, get 10, 20% off their asking price because you're a cash buyer. At the end of the day, if the market analysis was done correctly, they're not going to worry too much about financing, about the appraisal anyway. So cash is king. It makes, everything a little easier. It certainly, gives a little more assurance that the process is going to go through. You don't have to worry about an appraisal, but don't try and beat up the sellers too bad because it's not the tool that it maybe once was. If you're a seller who is likely, who's wondering who my next buyer might be, it might not be a young couple. It could easily be, a 65-year-old retiree who's just ready to make their next move. And it's not necessarily, the type of homes that you're thinking of. Ranches are still going to be the most popular, obviously, but we're still seeing, people in this generation buying 2-story homes. So it's not unheard of. It's really kind of spread out. The boomer generation is certainly the active generation, right? They want to get out, they want to stay active, so they're not afraid of some stairs. For our second segment here, I did want to talk about the rise of multi-generational living. Coming from where I come from, the Amish background that I have, there's a lot of people who kind of stay together as a family, and you often see what you call a dotty house that would be built on site. There's the big farmhouse, as it would be, and then they'll build a dotty house off to the side. I think that is common, not just in the Amish community, but Mennonite, and now we're seeing it increase in other communities as well, where you've got more than one generation that lives on the property or even in the same house itself. So you've got families where there's the parents, obviously it's their kids, sometimes even adult kids, and then grandma and grandpa, are sometimes moving back in and living there in the home site as well. I've seen that, but in the past, I think it used to be more of a rare thing, so it was more notable. Now we're seeing it become more commonplace. ABC News actually just had a report on this, talked about the rise of multi-generational homes, and part of that is because of the rising home cost, right? The cost to buy a home has risen. So to have those substantial, sometimes retirement accounts that can come in from a grandma or grandpa or parents, and they can help with that down payment or even buy it with cash, as well as those younger folks who are wanting to become homeowners, but they just don't have the means right now. As home prices have risen, that's knocked some buyers out of the market, which is definitely what we don't want. That's something that's being looked at on a national level, I can assure you. I'll be going to DC here in just, oh my goodness, about 3 weeks, not even 3 weeks. That is going to be toward the forefront of what we're talking about, is increasing affordability for homeowners across the country, but specifically in Indiana. So I'll hopefully be bringing back some good news when I come back from DC here in about 3 weeks. Of course, aging parents, that's a need, and instead of putting mom and dad in a home or in another situation, just taking care of them, the kids, bringing them home, you're going to stay here with us now, kind of a talk. I can't believe I just said that. It reminds me of Sloth from Goonies, like, you're going to live with me now, dating myself. And a shout out to Pastor Tim Fisher, who also mentioned Sloth at his sermon, which is not an easy thing to do, but he brought up Sloth and the Goonies during his sermon this last Sunday. And then, of course, you've got adult children who are returning home as well, like we talked about. That, I think, is something that has been increasingly common, to have the child that graduates from college, looking at a situation where they can often, again, work from home, but they feel maybe disillusioned, or they're just not at this point able financially to buy a home. They're moving back in with mom and dad. So it's increased the type of homes that, maybe mom and dad are looking for, whereas they raised the kids, moved out of the 3-bed, 2-bath. Well, now they're needing a little something bigger, right? The 4-bed, the 4-bath, in often situations is what's becoming more and more desirable. So bigger homes for bigger families and different styles of families. And then it's actually, this one's kind of cool. Just they found that there's a growing bond, I guess, a stronger family bonds in their studies, and that desire for shared responsibility. Let's say we want to have a home, we want to have a house that we own, we don't want to rent, we want to build up equity, but it's more familial than it has been in the past. To share the assets. So I think that one's super cool. I can tell you right now, and I won't name names, but I know of one generation, one family right now that has 4 generations living under the roof. So you've got the toddler all the way up through great grandma, all under one roof. And I think that's really, really cool. It's a very intentional thing to do. Just to kind of recap real quick, what does this mean if you're a buyer, if you're a seller? So buyers right now are looking with homes for flexible layouts, finished basements, very important, an extra suite or in-law quarters, super, super important. We got a place that's coming up in about a week and a half that's over in Jefferson. It is set up incredibly well for this. The basement has 2 bedrooms, a full bathroom, really a full kitchen. It's not even a kitchenette. And it's all on 13 acres. The upstairs is absolutely magnificent. So if that's something you're looking for, it's got 2 ponds. I could go on and on about this property. It's even got some woods in the back. It's super, super cool, super unique. 2 barns, swimming pool. If that's something you might be looking for, give me a call or give Nathan a call, because that one's coming up pretty soon. We're going to probably start marketing that later this week, and then it'll actually be ready for showings the following week. Some really, really nice places that are coming up on the market too. So depending on what you're looking for, we've got other ones that are big, sprawling ranches that don't have a finished basement yet, but have egress windows down there. So if you want to do it yourself and make it your own, that's not an option that we're going to have coming up here soon too. Sellers with those larger, more adaptable homes are probably going to see higher demand. That's kind of a trend we're already seeing started, and I think that's just going to continue. And then builders, for our builders out there, they're designing new homes with a primary suite and then with separate entrances often. I'm sorry, dual primary suites. So, you've got the suite on one side of the home, and it used to be what we call the traditional split floor plan, where you've got the suite and then 2 bedrooms on the other side of the home. Now we're seeing more of like the separation of the main suite and then another secondary suite that's on the other side of the home, and often again with that secondary entrance as well. So something that you're seeing more and more from home builders, because I think this trend is going to continue. So basically our takeaway today is just that boomers are buying. They're buying in big numbers, and they're often in a strong financial position. So they're making up a wonderful segment of home buyers right now. And then those multi-generational homes, they're shaping homes and how they're designed, how they're bought, and how they're sold, and how they're remodeled. I think, again, that's a trend that we're going to see continue for some time now. So if you're curious about what I said today, if you have any other additional questions, please do reach out to me, reach out to myself, Nic Wyse, or my teammate Nathan Schwartz. We've got you. We've got answers for you. We're here to help you. That's it. I came in a little longer than I thought, which is not uncommon for me. As you know, if you listen to the show, I talk too much, and I need Nathan to pull me back in. We'll get him back on next week. We'll get things back to normal again next week. Looking forward to that show. And for now, thank you all for listening and for tuning in to the Realty Rundown from the Nic Wyse team. Get wise replies, because Nick knows. See you guys.